Gentlemen, good morning to you, both of you. Thank you for joining us here on ENCA. Kirtan, if I can start with you for just a moment, just how much of a failure is this for these KN95 masks not protecting those who need them the most?
Yeah, good morning. There's an echo and press on. Before I talk about KN95, I just want to make one, mask is not the beginning of work.
All right, Kirtan, what I'm going to do for the moment, I apologize, I think the echo might be affecting our side as well. Kirtan Deda, we're perhaps going to redial you and come back to you in a moment. Let me go across to Anban Pillay while we try and fix that other line. Anban, hello to you. Let's come to you for a moment. The question I was asking, Kirtan Deda, I think you heard, was just how much of a failure is this then, knowing that the masks that healthcare workers are relying on are potentially not as safe as they're supposed to be?
Yeah, so the masks that Professor Deda tested are the KN95 masks. They are intended to replace what's referred to as the N95 mask, which is the gold standard. And I think ideally everybody would like to have access to the N95 mask. The problem is globally there's a huge shortage of these masks. And so the KN95 mask is an alternative to that. And there are quality problems with the KN95 mask globally. So I think the work that Professor Deda has done helps us to try and evaluate the KN95 mask before we use it. In South Africa, there's only one lab currently commercially available that will test the KN95 mask before SAHPRA registers it, which is the regulator. And so there are a lot of these KN95 masks that are floating around in the market that may not be of an appropriate standard. Being able to separate the good ones from the bad ones is a critical thing. And Professor Deda's work, I think, helps us have an easier way of making that difference out, because it's not really something you can visually do. You need to obviously do some tests to compare them. Yeah.
Well, let me bring in Kirtan Deda, Professor Deda. Hello to you again, Professor. I apologize for the breakup in the line. It might have been a Zoom issue. Kirtan, if you are able to hear me now properly and we can have this conversation, tell me about how this discovery was made and just how significant is it, knowing that the masks that it seems every healthcare worker, not just in South Africa but around the world, has become reliant upon, maybe isn't doing its job?
Yeah, so the way we got into the study was that we have an interest in air research unit, looks at on a regular basis. So do a lot of work in that prompted us to do masks, and we ourselves did masks for our research work. We got into testing. And the bottom line is the components of the testing. The one is to test the filtration material of the mask itself. For that, you don't need
Professor Deda, I'm going to have to apologize again. I really do apologize to both you and our viewers. It's such an important conversation. I'd rather we ask one of the later shows in the day, Professor, to get Kirtan Deda back on and have this conversation with a much better line. Anban Pillay, if you don't mind, let me come back to you on this. Your line is very much on my side today. Perhaps we can continue the conversation. So these are the results that have been found. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. But what do we do from here? What's the conclusion out of this? How do we now go and change all these KN95 masks that everyone has been using for the last 8-9 months and tell them they aren't working? We need to change the process. How do you begin doing this?
So Professor Deda has been working with us quite closely in terms of this research. So as his findings identify masks that are failing either the filtration test or the fit test, he shared those results with us. And the sample that he had from his study was predominantly in the Western Cape, and the Western Cape Department of Health, as well as the private sector in the Western Capes, would draw on those masks, so they're no longer purchasing it. As we are procuring more masks, or we're getting applications to procure more masks, we're referring to Professor Deda to also do tests for us. But I don't think he'll probably be able to cope with the volume of masks that are available, so we'd have to bring on the other universities to also do this testing, so that across the country we have a number of facilities that can test for this KN95 and weed out the bad ones from the system.
Just before I start
there are
saying,
some good ones.
Just before I start saying goodbye to you, I was about to ask you about the good ones. So clearly these particular ones, these masks are a bit of a problem. There are good ones on the market.
Yes.
Just how easily accessible are those? And are we now saying, perhaps as a last question to you as well, that the ones that are around the rest of the country, not the Western Cape, the other provinces, that they shouldn't be using those?
No, I think they need to be tested, and we've been having workshops with the colleagues in the provinces, in the public sector, explaining to them how the procurement needs to happen and the testing of these masks need to happen. So we refer these masks in for testing and evaluate these masks before we procure them. So many of those that are buying masks in the provinces had no ability to actually do the testing because it's not easy to do. Now that they have some tools that they can use and checklists that they can apply, they can potentially weed out those masks that are poor quality. The ones that are poor quality can be used in low-risk environments. They should not be used in the medical environment where you have highly contagious diseases like COVID and TB, etc. That's where you need a very good protection.
Well, I really appreciate your time in speaking to us. Joining us, NHI Deputy Director General Anban Pillay, speaking to us about the mask. Sadly, we had lost Professor Ketan Deda, Pulmonology Division at UCT. I'm sure the team here at ENCA will get him back on. It's so important that we speak to the man behind the research and behind these KN95 masks. He seems to know quite a lot about them. My thanks to both of those guests, and also my thanks to you for joining us.